Hey everybody, want to welcome you guys all to the Boombox Guru channel. I'm your host LB. So today I got a brand new book review. I just recently finished reading, at least at the time of this recording this video, I just recently finished Dee Snider's memoir called "Shut Up and Give Me the Mic: A Twisted Memoir." This is a book that Dee Snider he actually put this book out about 10 years ago. So I'm a bit late, but hey, better late than never. But this is a memoir, and like most memoirs, it's about that person's life, their upbringing and so forth. Now, I couldn't find anywhere where this book was written in collaboration with another author, because in most cases, in most books like this that's written by artists, music artists and so forth, it's usually not them that's writing the book themselves. It's usually them in collaboration with an author, where they'll tell the story and then the author will somehow structure these stories uh into it being readable. You know what I mean? But I couldn't find that information anywhere. Everywhere I looked, it said author Dee Snider. So unless somebody knows more than me, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this book was written by Dee Snider himself. And that makes a lot of sense too, because the way that this book is structured, when you read it, is exactly the way that Dee Snider talks. Anybody that's watched interviews with Dee Snider, you know how he is. He's very passionate. He's very animated. He's really into what he's talking about, and he can go 100 miles a minute. He'll be on a certain topic, and he'll throw in like a little trivia information pertaining to something in that topic. Everybody knows how Dee Snider is when he does interviews. So that's how this book is written, man. So the whole while I was reading this book, man, I could just hear Dee Snider's voice. It felt like I was sitting across from him at a kitchen table and listening to him tell me these stories. So I can only imagine what this book is like listening on audio or whatever, man. But this was a really great read. Anybody that knows me personally, or anybody that follows me on my social media platforms, you probably already know that Twisted Sister is one of my favorite heavy metal bands. They were one of the first heavy metal bands that I was introduced to as a kid, because their videos were a mainstay on VH1 when I was growing up. They used to show them all the time on that channel. So they hold a very close place to me. So I always am interested in anything that pertains to anybody in that band. So this book was definitely a must read for me. It was really good to hear Dee Snider tell stories of his early childhood growing up in Long Island, his experiences growing up with his family, what his first introduction into rock and roll, what bands inspired him to want to take that course to become a rock star, as well as the early days of him first, well, maybe not professional band, but he also talks about his first attempts of starting the band, which is pretty funny when you read the stories, as well as going into his early days as performing in his first professional bands, then getting into Twisted Sister, joining Twisted Sister, and all the obstacles and things that they faced in those early days up until they finally got signed, became a huge successful band, and as well as their decline in popularity, all the hardships he endured along the way, as well as after the band's breakup and their popularity had dwindled. He goes into all of that. And if you've ever watched a documentary, We Are Twisted F and Sister, a lot of stuff that was discussed in that documentary is mentioned in this book. As a matter of fact, a lot of that stuff, you could say that Dee Snider gives more of an in-depth explanation on a lot of those things that might have been glossed over in that documentary. So it's really worth watching that documentary as well as reading this book. They kind of coincide a little bit with each other. Although this is all told from Dee's perspective, so I guess to fully get a true perspective will have to be from, like, they read a book from each and every member. But this was just a really great read, man. I didn't spend a lot of time reading this book, man. Like me, I've always been an avid reader. I mean, I got away from it for a long time, but getting back into reading recently, man, anytime I come across a good book, I spend all my time reading it. All my spare time is reading. Like, I don't care about playing video games. I don't care about nothing else, man. I'm gonna spend my time reading a book, and that's what I did while I was into this book, man. Like, when I got up in the morning after my exercise, after breakfast, I spent a little time reading, then get ready for work. I would On my breaks at work, I would go to my car and read the book. Would read a book, would read a little bit read a little bit on my lunch breaks. Get home, do my nightly routine when I got home, read the book, go to bed, and then do it all over again. That's how good this book was. So every spare moment I had, I was into this book. And if you're somebody that's a fan of Twisted Sister, you definitely should pick up this book if you haven't. I'm pretty sure most Twisted Sister fans, longtime fans, have already read this book. But this was just such a great read, man. It does come with a few pictures and so forth during the different periods of Twisted Sister as well as Dee's life. From his teenage years, his childhood, his young adulthood, as well as more presently and so forth. Uh, there's also a bit of life lessons that you can take from this book too. Uh, that I really enjoy. The biggest that I took from this book was determination and willpower, because Dee Snider, man, when he first realized that he wanted to be a rock star, he held on to that dream. He held on to that goal, and he worked hard to achieve it, and he did just that. And the reason why that stood out to me was because how many of us have had dreams and goals, and we allow the world and other people who probably never had dreams or goals to kind of crap on it and bring us down. And Dee endured that. When you read this book, you will hear Dee talk about how people made fun of him when he would tell them that he wanted to be a rock star and things of that nature. And no matter how much they made fun of him and laughed at him, even his own family, even some people in his own family didn't take him serious with that. He still had the willpower. He still had that willpower to keep going and not let that bring him down. And he achieved it. So he pretty much proved these people wrong. He proved them wrong. Even if Twisted Sister's huge success might have been brief, he did it. He achieved it. So I really took that I took a lot from that, as well as sacrifice. Because that was a lot of hard work that went into him getting to that point. You really got to put in the work for a lot of those things, and there was a lot of things he sacrificed, especially during Twisted Sister's massive success. Him and his wife got married before the band even got signed to a record deal, and when the band blew up, he had they had to go on tour and things of that nature. So he sacrificed having time with his wife and his kid at the time, because this is what he wanted. Man, he also goes into like what it really felt like for him once he did achieve massive success and once he achieved fame, and how that drastically changed his world as well. But family is also another thing I took from it. Family was a big focus on this, man. His wife Suzette, his kids. He really talked about how that was the most important thing to him. Like, it didn't matter the money, whatever. Him being broke, he was fine with being broke as long as he had his wife, as long as he had his kids, his family. So, in spite of the sacrifices that Dee Snider made, he always made his family like the number one. And he didn't live the typical rock star lifestyle or whatever. Like, you hear so many stories from all these different rock stars about the drugs and debauchery and everything like that. D was a different guy. D was a different guy. I'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't read the book. But yeah, a great book that tells really great stories, but also a book that you can get some inspiration from as well, that can really maybe inspire you to want to not give up on your goals, not to want to give up your dreams, and to stay the course, no matter what people may say, to stay the course. But definitely a great read. Anybody that's a fan of heavy metal or hard rock music, you don't even have to really be a fan of Twisted Sister. I think that even if you may have never really cared for the band, I still think that this book is worth reading, because Dee did a great job at putting this together. Hoping that he'll put out another book soon. Where he'll talk about where he's at now, in life and so forth, man. But if you haven't read this book, definitely go pick it up. I got my copy from Amazon for relatively a reasonable price. Wasn't too expensive. I got the paperback edition. There's also a hardcover edition, which, you know, hardcovers are always a little bit more expensive, but it does come with a different cover. It has a more recent photo of Dee Snider instead of this. This is like more classic, like 80s Dee Snider right here. But still, definitely a book worth read for anybody that's a fan of music fans or whatever. Definitely go check out Dee Snider's Shut Up and Give Me the Mic, as well as the Twisted Sister documentary, We Are Twisted Effing Sister. Like I said, if you watch that documentary and read this book, you will see how that both kind of intertwines and connects with each other. But yeah, definitely a good book that I highly recommend for my music fans, all my metal fans out there who wants to check out some good reading, a good memoir, a good biography, autobiography. This is definitely one, if you haven't read it, to go pick up. But that's it for this book review. Hopefully you'll get another one pretty soon. I'm kind of in between books right now, so I don't know when you'll get the next one. But I hope you guys enjoyed this book review. And if you did, please do me a huge favor. If you want to, hit that thumbs up and give me a like. Also, if you want to, hit that subscribe button, tap that bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop more content. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's been watching the channel, who's been subscribing to the channel, who's been supporting my videos and so forth. A huge thank you to all of you out there. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.